Hi, Catherine. Welcome.
Hi.
And welcome to my interview. And we had a nice chat just before we started. So, Catherine is from Resinista. So, I found Catherine on Instagram through doing resin art. She's an absolutely amazing artist and inspired me to do resin. So, I'm so privileged to have you to be able to interview. I'm interviewing from South Africa, Cape Town, and you're in LA currently, but you're actually from Canada.
Both. From Canada, 6 months and 6 months down here. They call me a snowbird, fly south for the winter.
That's amazing. You're very lucky to be able to do that. I think that's the ideal
Very,
world.
very fortunate.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Why I'm doing these interviews, I recently saw some of my babies. She's now 12 years old, but I saw baby videos on YouTube. And I don't have the account anymore that I had then, so I don't even know how to delete it. And it's just on there. And I thought, is it on there forever? Can someone find it?
Mhm.
And then I got the idea of making almost like a time capsule vlog of what is happening in lockdown in the world with people that I want to connect with, because we are making history right now. We're in it. It's like giving a cell phone to someone in the Second World War and say, hey, document what's going on. We've got the opportunity to document
Yes,
stuff.
you're so right. I think it's really important. Thanks for doing it.
Yes, and I think someone in the future is going to come back and there will be this diary of and history of information in the making. So I want to know what it's like for you as a person and as an artist to be in LA in lockdown, and what is your form of lockdown? Because our lockdown is pretty crazy. We are not allowed out at all. They've now recently moved us that we can exercise between 6 and 9. They've banned all alcohol sales. They've banned all cigarette sales. We permanently have to wear masks, and we have a curfew. We can't leave our house from 8 o'clock at night until 5 o'clock in the morning, which I mean, most people don't in winter, but they've never done that since the apartheid years. So it's very interesting our country, how they do lockdown. So
Yeah.
what's happening with you and in LA and America?
Well, personally, myself, my husband went into kind of a semi-lockdown really, really early, long before they actually did the lockdown, because I'm a little bit older and I wanted to be safe. So I've been kind of in a semi-lockdown since February. And the only things that we do are go out and hike every day. So we take a good walk, probably 5 miles. And now we can go back in the hills. So we venture up into the high hills, probably about 10,000 elevation, which is pretty good for me. And so that's one thing that we do to keep myself sane and fresh air. And the other thing we do is my husband does groceries once every 2 weeks. And other than that, we sit outside our place and have coffee and tea in the morning. I don't really go anywhere. And so it's tough, but I'm pretty good and able to handle it and just do my thing inside the house.
Awesome. So you've got a lot of time. I mean, sometimes when we're not in lockdown, we do things and we're driving around and picking up things and getting stuff. But now, because we're more confined, has it given you more time for your art? Or have you always just done it?
Well, that you would think so. So when I'm in Canada, I have a lovely studio and I spend every day, potentially even 7 days a week in my studio. I go up there about 9 and I come down at 5, kind of like a schedule. And even sometimes if I have a resin that I need to sculpt or to manipulate, I might go back up again, or just because something is on my mind. And here in California, I don't keep that schedule. And but still I would paint 3 times a week, because our hikes take hours in a day, and you'd shop and you'd visit friends and things of that nature. And since the lockdown and now California is actually starting to open up a few things, but nothing that interests me. I'm letting my hair grow gray. So I don't need a beauty salon,
No.
and I like that, and for my relaxed lifestyle. But the funny thing is that lockdown has made me a little more lazy with my art. So I'm not as committed. I still do my art, but I do it an hour here, an hour there, 2 hours maximum. I don't spend hours upon hours in my studio. And I can't really figure out why that is, but something has affected me. It could be Netflix.
Modern Family. Oh, one strange rock is something to look out for. I'm not sure it's even on Netflix anymore. Fascinating about the planet and space and views from space. A really cool Netflix series that we had here. So
Yeah.
I want to get a little bit on your background of how did your whole experience, where were you born? How did you were you always autistic, or what did you study? Just a whole background about who are you, Catherine, as a person?
Well, I was born into a big Irish Catholic family on the east coast of Canada on an island called Newfoundland and Labrador. So beautiful, rocky coastal island, which is kind of like California is. There's some similarities to that coastline. So I love that. I was very artistic as a kid, did a little bit of everything. I did fashion designs for my sister's dolls. You know, I didn't play with the dolls, but I made things for the dolls. I did weave, you know, woven things and painted. You know, even as a kid, I read a lot, had a lot on the go, wrote poetry. And then, you know, by the time I was a young teenager, I started working, you know, growing up in a large family. There was no money to divvy out. So I had always had a job from the time I was 13 years old. And by the time I was 17, I left home and had 2 jobs and worked the rest of my life. And never really had time for art again. Sometimes while watching TV, I would pick up and make jewelry and things like that, but never really got into it until myself, my husband had a car dealership, and that was a busy lifestyle. 16-hour days were normal. And we built a new store, beautiful, big brand building. And my office had a large fireplace, electric fireplace. And above it, I thought, well, I'll buy something, you know, a nice painting for that. And I kept looking around, and they were so pricey, anything that I liked. And I thought, I think I can paint something. So I went out. I bought a canvas that was 4 foot by 6 foot big, like nothing like starting small, and didn't like what I did. And funny enough, I did fluid art. I started with acrylic fluid art, had not seen anything like it before. And I thought, let's give this a try. Didn't like what I did. Try again. I did 9 of those 4 by 6 canvases. I don't think I've ever shown any of them, though I still have them. And, but at least that started me on it. And then I went smaller, and it, you know, that was 2014, I believe. So I've been at it a while.
Yeah.
So,
and how?
So I'm finally back to myself, because we sold the car dealership. Thank God. Because it was very stressful. I didn't know that until I got out of it. You know, you don't know when you're in the middle of stress how stressful it is.
Because you get so used.
I loved it. Yes, I loved it, every minute of it. But now I'm so thankful. And so now, you know, I paint.
Beautiful.
Back to the beginning.
Awesome. But what a beautiful cycle. And now that you're sharing it, but why resin? Resin, and I have to tell you, you inspired me, but I was like, I need to learn how to do this, because I thought I can paint. I did art at school. I love oil painting. I do a bit of this, a bit of that. I've now also done alcohol inks, which I love.
Yes, it's lovely.
Yes. And the unpredictability of resin drove me crazy, because you'd think, this is how I see it. And then it starts moving. And then you apply the heat gun, and it like, something changes.
So time with that, now I started with acrylics, and I quickly went to resin. And back then there were no videos. There was nothing on YouTube. It was very difficult to learn anything. There was nobody giving answers to anything.
Let's keep a secret.
So well, not even a lot of people were doing it, or maybe not in that medium with paintings. And so basically it took a lot of practice and a lot longer to learn it for me than it can be for someone starting out today, because now there's tutorials, there's all kinds of tips you can ask. I answer every single question that ever comes to me. I've never ignored one. And I try to be as helpful as possible, because I know how hard it can be in the beginning. And why not shortcut it? It's expensive product. It's not inexpensive. And so the longer that you work with it, and especially if you work with one brand all the time, you know its characteristics and consistencies. I did a sculpture last night, and so I knew that yesterday I could pour it, and then we went out for a walk, and 4 hours later I know, because of the brand that I'm using and the temperature in my house, that I could go up, pick that up, it wouldn't be sticky, but it would fall to the contours of what I laid it on. And so you get to know it.
And the nice thing, and why I really love your style, is the fact that you show, and on your Instagram as well, you'll be showing and revealing and teaching. And because I found with art, it used to be quite a cliquey thing. Like people were quite, if they learned something new and they got a new thing, like you did with resin, a lot of people didn't want to share how, because they thought, I want to be the only one doing resin. But you didn't.
I just find that I'm excited to show what I learn. And the reason being, well, for me, because I'm retired, it might be a little different. Even though I do sell most of everything that I make, and that's also nice. I would rather help. I would rather teach if I can, answer questions. That's my thing. I'm more comfortable with that than I am with trying to keep it to myself. It doesn't make sense to me personally, although it could and be very important for other artists. So everybody has to make their own decision.
Yes. And I want to ask you, what is there still in your life as a person, except from just being the artist? What do you still want to, on your bucket list, do, create, go and see, go and travel? Where is your future, and what do you want to still expand to?
Well, on the art page, I want to become a much better artist. So I've never really had the time to do lessons and that. Well, I can't say that because I've had lots of time since I retired, but I've been busy making videos for Instagram. So I want to become a better artist. And with this coronavirus stay-at-home orders, one thing that I am doing is taking lessons, because I want to come out of this situation in better condition in many ways. In my body, I want to eat healthier, so I gave up most sugar. I can't say everything, but I gave up a lot of junk. I'm walking and hiking a lot more, and I'm taking lessons. So those are the things that I want to do for myself during this period of time. For the longer term, I've always been a traveler. I've traveled extensively, and I can't count how many countries I've been to, but 60, 70, 80, 100 potentially. And I'd like to continue to do that. But we got to get through this virus thing, because none of us will be going anywhere. So simple things, simple things, travel, painting.
Travel is one of my favorite things, and it's probably my strongest passion and driver for what I want to do. Although I haven't really traveled that extensively. I used to be in the film industry, and I was very privileged because our film would go to festivals all over the world, and they'd fly me to strange places, and they'd pay. So I've been to Estonia, and I was like, I didn't even know where it was. I had to Google it. And that was it. And then it was Spain and Norway and Belgium and all these incredible places to go and experience a flavor of something else and somewhere else. If you could, I'm sure it's going to be hard because you've been to so many, but is there a place that has your heart? Is there a place where you just think, wow, this is where I feel at home as well?
There are several, but Positano, Italy is one of them for sure. Yeah, that's a beautiful place. Yeah, I love that. I wouldn't live there, but the visits are so special to me. I do love that.
Where is that?
That is south in Italy. Yeah, all the way south in Italy. Yeah, just beautiful. And next in my heart is Bali, because I haven't been there. And if any of my sisters see this, that's where we're going next. I have 4 sisters, so the 5 of us will go to Bali. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. My sister's been there. She went to this really extraordinary retreat, which is going to sound funny to you, but her and her husband traveled quite a way. They were living in Australia and they found this retreat in Bali. And what it does is, I call it the shaky, shaky camp. That's not the real name for it. It's something else. But they had to shake and move to music for, I think, 6 hours a day. It was crazy.
Wow.
Eat all organic food and in this beautiful place. And it's all vegan and vegetarian. And it was really, but they would have very cool music and different styles of music, and the guy at the front would tell you to move your body, and apparently my sister said you shake and then eventually go through a stage of like, this is like really like long, and then you get to the stage of pain and resistance, and then she said you go to the next stage where you absolutely feel amazing. And I have this on my bucket list as well. So it's all these cool places.
I think it's great.
Yeah. And she said after that you feel, because I can imagine if your body is intensely being used for that amount of time, something's going to happen. Some breakthrough is going to happen.
I think so.
I think we have all these privileges, because what I've realized with the lockdown as well, where everyone's kind of slowed down, it's given us a time to think a little bit more about ourselves, because we're always out there doing something for someone else, and suddenly there's nowhere to rush to. And so when I woke up on day one, I remember I live in a very upright little 3-story house, but my balcony overlooks quite far. I can see the sunrise over the mountains, and I've got a beautiful view. And I remember the first day being quite spectacular, because I got out on my balcony and it was silent. There were no cars, no engines, no factories, no noise. It was just the sound of birds. And I was like, yay, this is maybe not so bad. You know, the experience has taught us, yes, there's all the pain and the suffering and really horrible and horrific things that are happening. And my heart goes out to everyone that's going through something painful. But I think at the same time, the planet's got some beautiful resetting structure for us.
Beautiful. We can see the mountains more clearly. They've been covered in that smoggy, foggy kind of look. And now I can see them more clearly, which is lovely. But I also do feel for a lot of people who aren't going through this so easily, because, you know, even being in lockdown, well, first of all, moms, you know, who are artists or not, they have so much on their plate and can't do their art, which could be their livelihood. And also just in general, some people will find it hard and not be able to do their art or not be able to do anything and become depressed. So I feel for everybody out there who going through so many different situations.
Yes, because some part of it, you've got the sense of being almost on like a holiday, but it's not quite, especially I've got 2 kids. It's not really a holiday when you've got kids. It's 24/7 looking after them.
Yes.
But then there's also yes, like you're saying, I mean, there's a lot of people that are stuck in that can't go anywhere, especially in South Africa. Older people have been really quarantined, and said even now when they're starting to lift some of the working environments and people returning, anyone over 60 is still not allowed to go back because they're at higher risk. But a lot of people are isolated and lonely, you know, missing your family. My mom desperately misses the grandchildren and us. So I think there's this, it's almost like a duality. Nature is recovering, we see all this beauty, and then we also have all the emotional baggage and the pain and the sadness and the suffering, the disconnection that we're all longing to just go out and hug someone and just...
True. Yes.
So I'm going to end off. What is the thing that you will remember about lockdown the most? Whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Just what would you remember? Or if you had to speak to someone in the future and they're looking back at this time, what would you remember about this time in your life?
You know, I would say that even though we can't be together, there's a big sense of community. Social media makes that possible. And I think I'll remember that, because there's a lot of discussion about it on social media, what people are going through. So no one is really alone if you have the opportunity to have the internet, so that you can connect with like-minded people. So I think it's a big sense of community is what I will remember.
Oh, beautiful. So I want to thank you, Catherine. You've been awesome, and it was so lovely to speak to you. And I hope, if it's okay, that in a few months' time, maybe when we're out of lockdown, that I can have another catch up with you at some point. And again, saying thank you that you inspired me to do a really crazy, cool art called resin art, and that you are spreading your wisdom and knowledge and experience with the world. You are awesome, and I really honor you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and makes me so happy that I inspired at least one person.
I think you inspire many.